Have you ever had a race that didn't quite go the way you expected it to? One that you had put all of your heart and soul and, most importantly, time into preparing for, and then race day came and things happened that just you didn't expect to, and your race went sideways. It happens to all of us. And I'm here with a fellow coach and athlete who had a race at IRONMAN Texas that didn't quite go the way that she had expected. And we're going to talk about that and how you get back up from that, not just finish your race, but then look to the future. So I'm here with Coach Erin Byrge, and she is going to tell us all about her experience. I'm Jill Bartholomew, and this is the Be Fierce and Try podcast. So Erin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So, hi, Jill. I'm so excited to be here. I am Erin Byrge. I live here in North Carolina. I have been doing triathlon. This is my 14th year. I don't know how to count that. I started in 2011. So, whatever that means.
That's all that needs to be said. I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I've been doing it my entire life. But because I love it, and now we coach and do all the things. So I got to go do Texas. I had some dreams. That was my fourth Ironman, and doing a little recon at that race. So as you said, all the time. You're in the middle of your Ironman training now too, though, right? Like all the time it takes and all the pressure it takes to go into this.
All the time.
Yeah.
And it's all you think about. I'm getting over an illness that's taken a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And I'm sitting here like, that's 2 weeks of training, girl.
Yes, but I guess that's probably one of the things right now that we coach. And so the first 2 times I did Ironman races, I had coaches. I wasn't yet a coach. And then even last year with Lake Placid, I had a coach, even with a coach, because coaches need coaches sometimes too.
And coaches are the worst athletes too.
Yeah, we really are the worst athletes. So I'm coaching myself this time, and I am my worst athlete. And I got to go to this race.
I shouldn't say worst, highest maintenance.
High maintenance is right. I was a teacher before, and teachers are also the worst students. So I do feel like this is very much a trend. But I was able to go to Texas, and I chose Texas partly because I had one of my athletes doing their first time race there as well. So a lot of time went into that race, and we both set our goals and had a great day, and just kind of a look into the future of what actually happened in the races. I had a wreck at mile 60 on the bike. And so it wasn't my fault, and it wasn't a terrible wreck, but I definitely went down and had some bumps and bruises, and getting back up is harder than you think it's going to be.
Getting back up is hard. I did Texas last year. I had been planning on doing it again this year because the bike, like I'm not a big fan of the swim there, but the bike, it's fast, right?
Yeah.
And, not only is it fast, but that highway, I saw so many wrecks last year. And although this year there was not a cement truck crashing through the barrier.
Yeah, that did not happen this year.
But last year I saw several people who went over their handlebars on the bike. And
my gosh.
Some of them came back and finished. Other people finished in the hospital.
Yeah. And, we choose our races, like you said, the bike. I chose because of the bike. And so I have done the other 3 Ironman races I've done Lake Placid twice and Kona. So I'm a larger human. I'm almost 6 foot tall. I'm not a skinny little triathlete. I race in the Athena category. So yes. So these climbing courses, not necessarily my strength, right? Why do I keep going to these climbing courses? So when I did Lake Placid in 2025, I did well. I did as well as I wanted to, and kind of got, just this close to Lake Placid or to qualifying for Kona. So when I looked at Texas, I had my athlete going, but it seems to be a course that would suit me. It's a flat course. It's a strong bike course. I live on an island that's flat and windy, so the wind didn't scare anybody. Talks about the wind on the Hardy Toll Road. And so I really went into that race putting a lot of time and thought into maybe this could be my course. And I wasn't going to try and Kona qualify this year. I was going in as a recon race. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to ride my tail off, and I'm going to prove that with enough run training, I'll be able to qualify if I go back the following year.
So as an aside, you mentioned wind.
Yeah.
How windy was it this year?
So, since I haven't been in previous years, I can't compare personally, but what I have heard is it was not nearly as windy as previous years. I would say that I expected it to be much worse than it
Mm,
was. Experienced some headwinds at about mile 31. And then obviously the second time coming through at that same spot, they were more headwinds,
yeah,
but
it gets worse as the day
yeah, of
progresses.
course. Yeah, with more wind, but it was not at all. I was actually a little disappointed because I am good in the wind.
Yeah, as last year, I was expecting wind, and I wasn't expecting it to be, like, straight in your face, and on my second loop heading out, I think I was averaging, like, high 20s. Coming back, it was, like, 17.
Right. Yeah.
My husband thought something was wrong. He's like, "What the heck is" he told me later, he's like, "What the heck is going on?" He follows me on the trackers, and he's
Yeah,
like,
of
"Your
course.
speed's, like, tanked." I'm like, "Yeah, wind."
Yeah. So my family and people watching at home had the same. They're watching me go and I was going faster than I even had expected to up to the
Mhm.
point that the crash happened.
Yeah.
But then the crash happened, and most of them didn't think much of it at first because I had told them, one direction we're going to have winds with us, the other direction we're going to have winds against us. So I'm sure they probably thought, oh, well, she just had winds against her at that point. So most of them didn't think a lot of. I was still very proud of my bike time overall. I only stood on the side of the road for, I don't know, less than 5 minutes. The young man that went down in front of me, first of all, he's about the same age as my children, and I can only hope that my children would be as gracious as this young man was. He was so apologetic. He ended up having a flat, and I said, "I'm
Mm.
passing on your left." And younger kid, I don't know how much he's ridden his bike in the past, but he definitely, like, looked with his whole bike, and
No.
since he already had a flat and looked with his whole bike, he literally skidded out in front of me, and I ran him over. Not him, thankfully, his body, but his bike. So, he ended up being on the side of the road for, like, an hour because I run tubeless. I couldn't help him fix his
Mhm.
flat, but I was only there long enough to chat with him and make sure I was a little bit sick. My adrenaline jumped up, and so I frankly puked a little bit. And so once my heart rate came down, I was done throwing up. I didn't feel
I
like I had
mean,
a
totally
concussion or anything.
understandable. You were just in a crash.
Yeah.
And, um, if you haven't done Texas before, it's really hard to appreciate exactly how hot it is out there on that highway.
Yeah, yeah.
It
And
is
honestly, so that was the
so
other
hot.
thing that we were not as hot as previous years either. I don't know if you've heard that about this year, but it actually got so cold towards the end of the race that they were like having to hand out Mylar blankets because people were getting hypothermia and they weren't prepared for cold. Like
Wow.
everybody's prepared for Texas being hot.
Yeah, I
But
remember
even
last
still,
year, like, once the sun went down, the temperature tanked.
yeah, yeah.
I finished, like, a little bit before sundown last year, and I wasn't sure if it was, like, just me and my heart rate going down or if it was, like, real, and, like, in Texas, it's still I mean, it's still the spring, right? Yeah, once the sun is down, and we're still in springtime, the temperatures go with it.
And you're sweaty in your tri kit. But, yeah, it definitely wasn't
Yeah,
as hot as normal years, but even still, yeah, it's a highway, it's a concrete surface that there's no real it's like an incubator, so, yeah, it was definitely hot, and
you
anyway,
got
so I got back
reflections
on the
from
bike.
every direction.
Yeah, but, yeah, so I got back on the bike, and I definitely throughout the rest of the bike, I had some internal things going on, right? Like, it would have been really easy to pull off, right? And be nobody would blame you, and so if any of your listeners haven't done an Ironman before, like, that's something that you train yourself for is those dark moments, right? Like, you have to have the emotional intelligence to put your demons aside because they will show up on race day, and, yeah, my little demon was, you know, "You can quit. You had a wreck. Nobody's gonna blame you for quitting." But I would look down, and my power was still okay, and I had a big ol', goose egg on my elbow, so I couldn't really get
Mhm.
into aero quite right. I was kinda cockeyed in my aero bars to keep
Okay.
that goose egg from sitting in the the elbow cup. And so I finished the bike and had a little chat with myself coming in. And honestly, my back wasn't bothering me at first. I took a bit of Tylenol, the little secret things we keep for ourselves in the change tent or in our bags for the change tent. So I took some Tylenol and I headed out on the run. And I'm not a strong runner. My running was never going to be super fast, but I only made it about a half a mile before I had to walk the first time. And that is unusual. I usually can make it more than a half a mile before I need to walk. Demons or heart rate, whichever leads to the first walk. And my back started spasming. So I had back spasms for 6.5 hours on the marathon.
No, that sounds horrible.
It took every ounce of energy I had to quiet my mind enough to continue, and I did. And so I still finished in 14 hours. I know many people, 14 hours would be a time that they'd be thrilled with. Upon reflection, now I have given myself permission to be proud of that time, not just of finishing through a terrible, experience, but also for that time. But what I really have kind of given more than any other Ironman I've done is thought to all of those things that were able to chase the demons away during that time. Like I went into this, I don't know if you read this on my Instagram, but I actually had a mammogram callback right
Mhm.
before my race, and they weren't able to get me in. So my appointment for my mammogram callback wasn't going to be till after. And it was 3
So you've
weeks
got, like,
of,
all that weighing you down
yeah,
too,
yeah.
which
And so
having been
I,
there, like, that's like, "Oh my god, what's going on? Am I dying?"
yeah, I've had many podcast or sorry, many mammogram callbacks in the 12 years that I've been having mammograms, and so there's no reason for me to believe that it was going to be any more than any of my other callbacks, so no reason to think it should be something to worry about. But for 3 weeks and you're dealing with demons, you've got your dark moments, you've done the 6-hour bike rides. And so I practice in those 6-hour bike rides of putting it out of my head. Like it would pop up,
Mhm.
I'd put it out. On race day, when it appeared in my head, it wasn't I'm worried about the mammogram. It was if you can finish this Ironman, you can beat cancer if that's what it comes to. So it
Mhm.
actually showed itself to me in more of a strengthening thing. And my mammogram came back all clear, just as I expected it would, and it was fine. But what made me nervous and what I practiced pushing out of my brain is something that I thought would be a hurtful thought or a dark thought actually ended up giving me the strength to keep going on the bike and after the wreck and when the back spasms came, like, if you can get through this, you can get through anything. And so it made me not wanna quit, to be completely
I
honest.
think that's amazing because, like, for me like, it feels, like, backwards to how I think I would react in the same situation. I'm like, with all that weighing down, like, oh, like, it could be so easy to feel like just, like, the sky is falling.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I expected it to be. I expected it to be this big, giant weight that I was gonna be carrying for what I had hoped to only be 13 hours, and instead, when it did come in my brain, like I knew it would, instead of being this big, heavy weight, it was more of a pull to continue to pull me forward. So I don't know that I did anything special to train my brain to do it that way. It's just during that day, and I mean, definitely when you train and when you have a coach that does train that emotional side of it to, hey, you are going to have a dark moment. Let's talk through how you're going to get through those dark moments. Practicing does make a difference in how you're going to see things. But in this case, I
So
expected it to need to be pushed away.
can we talk about those dark moments for just a second?
Yes. Those big scary
I
moments.
mean, we've all been there, um, not just as a first timer, but obviously, more experience too. I feel like
Yeah.
every race, there's that moment, and it may be short, it may be long, but there's like that moment where you're just like, why am I here? And like, I want to be anywhere but here. In Marbella, it was on that big climb out of ocean. In Lake Placid, it's usually on the last climb. You get to the top of the Three Bears, and then you make the right, and you're like, oh, like there's more.
And it's not done, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's like the old Steve Jobs thing, right? It's like, "But wait, there's more."
There's more.
Yeah, yeah, and I have some athletes who are doing their first Ironman this year, and in their training, they're like, "Wow, this is how I feel like in training. How am I gonna feel on race day? How am I gonna get through it?" So, like, how do you kinda work through uncertainty in mammograms aside,
Yeah.
how do you work through those? How do you teach your athletes to? Like, what do you tell them?
Yeah, and that's you're absolutely right. You don't have to have some big, scary, heavy thing. It could be your life, not that anybody could say that every aspect of their life is perfect, but let's pretend that somebody has every aspect of their life is perfect and they go out and they're doing an Ironman. Something is gonna creep in. Something is going to be in your brain. So that's kind of the first job, is to figure out what that something's going to be, because you don't want it to be completely new. This new thought that nothing new on race day also means no new dark thoughts on
Yeah,
race day.
yeah.
So when we start doing that ramp up, we start talking about, like, what are the things that are bugging you in your first long bike ride, in your first long run, and a lot of times it starts real surface, like, well, I feel slow. And sure, that's a thing. And yes, there is a mental component to feeling slow, but those conversations, and that's, really where coaching is more of a, I mean, sometimes it's a therapy session, right? It turns into, we're pulling it out of them, what it is. And so journaling, and this time I knew 3 weeks out what my big, heavy, scary thing was probably going to be. But in past ones, it was a lot of, I mean, you're a mom, you know this. It's like the guilt of all of the time that you gave to training, and when you hit 3 bears the second, or just get past it the second time through, oh my gosh, I can't believe I gave all that time away that I could have been spending to my kids, and now I've gotta walk up this hill, or whatever it does, whatever it causes for you. And those things can generally come out when you're having conversations with your coaches, and when you hire your coach, finding that person that you're gonna be comfortable to have those conversations with.
I think that's a really, really important key, and, like, as a coach, I've had athletes that maybe we didn't click right and they didn't last, and other athletes where it does click and we're able to provide that support in the way that person needs it, and those
Yeah.
end up being, like, long-term relationships beyond coaching. Sometimes you have new friendships in there too. I had one athlete, she did her 2nd marathon this year in preparation for her first Ironman, and all
So
this
exciting.
yes, and, all the self-doubt crept in, like, 2 days before the race. "I'm not good
Right.
enough. I can't do this. I'm not prepared. I remember how the last one felt. This is gonna be worse." I think she was, like, an hour faster than her first marathon, which was only, a couple of months prior to that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's so easy, you get so excited about the event, you put all the effort and training in, but then all the guilt, yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that she addressed that with you before the race, those weeks going in when it started, instead of pushing it in and forgetting about it or pushing it away, addressing it and knowing how to feel about it, so that when it did pop up on race day, I'm sure that helped her so much.
I hope so, because I felt like a little cheering squad, because that's part of my job description, is to be the cheer section when no one else
Yes.
is,
Yes,
and even when
absolutely.
other people are too. Organize the cheer squad.
Right, right. So yeah, so I finished the race, and for the first time I've done over 100 races. I have done, at this point, the 4 full Ironman, and I think I'm up to I'm thinking 17 or 18 half Ironman distances, and this is my first time ever in the medical tent. That's an interesting place.
I mean that's a pretty good record.
Yes. Yes.
In
That's
21 Ironman branded races, Med Tent won, so I mean, it's not a bad
yeah.
statistic.
I'll take it. I'll take it. But sitting in there, so, I've dealt with the mammogram scariness during the race. And then after the race, looking around at all of these people that are freezing, most of them freezing because of, you know, it was after dark, right? 14 hours after start. We were definitely after dark. And they were all so cold, and a lot of them feeling kind of disappointed and whatever. So one of my biggest reflections was that honestly, sometimes the hardest part is the after. And for me, it was reconciling that 14 hours was not what I wanted, and figuring out a way to be
Mhm.
proud of that 14 hours. And for each of them, whatever, the people around me, I could hear them talking about the fact that they ended up in the med tent and their whole family was outside. I do think, especially women, we do that to ourselves, that the guilt becomes kind of the heavy weight that we carry for whatever reason. But yeah, doing the processing after, I honestly think for this race for me, fourth full Ironman, this is the most post processing that I've let myself do. And I needed to do it because it was probably the one I was the most disappointed with when I first
Yeah.
finished. So yeah, I've processed it. I've had to let my Kona qualifying dreams go at least for a little bit, because I came to the realization that with the one day racing, I am not going to soon be in a Kona qualifying time. But like I talked before, you're a biker. That's my jam too. And running for me is always going to be slow. And I was lucky enough to find aqua bike a few years back. And so I do Team USA aqua bike worlds this year, and qualifying for next year's aqua bike worlds happens in June. So being able to process that, while a Kona dream is amazing, and for people that can qualify, I mean, how amazing that you can do that. And if you're on the edge, I'm going to help you dream that dream too. But for me, putting that dream to the side and really making my aqua bike worlds dreams bigger and letting those feel as worthy as a Kona dream has been really kind of cathartic. It's been good.
And where is that Worlds this year? Is that in Oman or somewhere else?
It's in Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
So we're being patient and making decisions in a month or so about whether we will actually go. But I have
Yeah.
qualified, I've got plane tickets, I've got a hotel. It is the dream course. It's a 70-mile bike ride. So it's long course, so 1.2-mile swim, but instead of a 56-mile, it's 70-mile bike. So for strong cyclists,
I'm a little
I
bit
really want
jealous.
to race.
Yeah, I'm a little bit jealous now. I don't know about the, like, Middle East part, but I'm a little bit jealous about the distance. I'm like, "That sounds like a lot of fun." I know a lot of people listening are like, "Oh my god, that sounds horrible." Yeah, no, I'm so and I like, my swims are okay. They're not like, I'm never going to be first out of the water. I'm
Me
not
neither.
a lifelong swimmer. I'm a good swimmer. And,
Yes.
like, some seasons I'm fast, some seasons I'm not. Some seasons I'm fat, some seasons I'm not. But on the bike, like, I can make up a lot of time on the
Yeah.
bike.
Yeah.
But then my runs, I'm like, I feel my runs suck. And I also recognize that, like, a lot of people would be very happy with my marathon times off the bike. But, like you, it's like, well, you start out with a number in your head. And then, like, at some point on the run, you're like, shit,
Yeah.
this is
This
not
isn't
happening.
happening.
And then you start, like, actively resetting goals. And, like,
Yes.
okay, at least for me, it's usually around mile 18 on the marathon, which is when the realization sets in that in order to meet my goal, I need to finish at a pace that's, like, ordinarily would be not a big deal, but at that moment is not going to happen,
Not happening
right?
anymore, right.
And that's when I'm like, "Okay, well, as long as we're under this, I'll be happy." And then you come in, like that happened to me at Kona. I thought I was going to be 11 and like I wanted like 11:50 something. And I ended up being like 12:04. And I was so disappointed because that number.
It's
I'm like,
mere minutes.
what's the difference? It's
It's
5
mere
minutes
minutes
difference.
in 12 hours.
And you know what it was? It was, you know, got back up onto Queen K. My goal was to be back on Queen K on the return before the sun went down. And I met that goal. But then the next 3 miles were like walk run like I've never walked before. And when I say walk around, I'm being really generous because there wasn't a lot of running going on.
So my coaching company is actually called 3 Goals Multisport, because
Mhm.
goals define me. I am obsessed with goals. So we actually set those negotiation goals. We set those goals by athletes that I do before they even hit the course so that they're not doing the negotiating at mile 18. Like we already know, like
But it keeps
this
you
is
in.
the rock star goal that if all so for
Mhm,
me, my rock star goal for Texas was 13 hours. If I hit 13 hours, I'm gonna feel like a rock star. And then super happy is the next goal. And I set that for 13:30.
mhm.
Like if anything goes wrong, certainly I'll finish in 13:30. I didn't think a bike wreck was gonna happen, of course.
I mean, that's extenuating.
Yeah, yeah. And so at that point, when you look at it in those regards, 14 hours is only a half an hour difference. And I
Mhm.
literally walked the entire marathon, other than, here and there a couple runs. And the last mile took me a half an hour. I literally took a half an hour to walk the last mile of Texas. And do you remember the Texas course at the end, how you kind of like go down and down around a few times? Well, down was what was making my back spasm. So
Really?
I would see a downhill come and I'd start crying, like sobbing audibly. People around me are like, "Are you okay?" I'm fine. I just want to go down. Normally, as a slow runner, I'm like, bring on the downhill.
Yeah, I tell everyone who will listen, gravity is your friend when you're going downhill.
Yeah, normally.
Yeah, yeah. Gravity is not your friend when you're going uphill,
No, no.
at least to me. It pulls me down. Sorry, I couldn't resist. So when I did Texas last year, first, like my swim, I had like some really bad breathing difficulties, and it turned out we think I may have had COVID on race day because I tested positive like the day after.
So certainly you
And
had it.
oh yeah, yeah, it was definitely in my system. And so my swim was the worst swim I'd ever had. And like you said, getting off the bike, getting out of the water was that like, oh my God, where's all the bikes? I'm not used to transition being
Right.
like half empty or more, right? I'm used to getting out
Yeah.
of the water and being like, where's my bike? I can't find my bike.
There's so many bikes here. Yeah.
There's so many bikes here. And, you know, then at the other end, getting in transition, being like, whoa, there's a lot of bikes here. That sucks. But yeah, the run, it all like caught up on the run, the second half. Like the first half was fine,
Yeah.
slow, but fine. The second half, I felt like I was collecting buddies. There ended up being at one point like six of us who are like this support group
Well, that's
from mile to
awesome
mile.
though.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I've learned to love about this sport is even though we're all competing against each other, and I do kind of miss having our age on everyone's calf so you can see, no, I'm competing against that person.
You and me both.
Right, because now it's like, she kind of looks my age, but
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
afraid to
know.
ask. How old
Yeah,
are
yeah,
you?
yeah. Yeah, she's more gray than me, so she might be older than me, but I dye my hair, so, like, maybe not. Yeah, so there ended up being, like, a small group of us that were, like, going through like, you can do it, you can do it. And we picked up like a foundation athlete or two. And, one of the girls I know through Betty and, a couple other random people we met. One guy had fallen off his bike and that was funny because he was so upset because he's like, I normally run like sevens and he was like ready to quit. And I'm like, stick with me, you'll finish. You got it. And then like 3 miles before the end, he's like, "See ya."
It's like, thanks for the support. I'm out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, we picked up someone else at mile 16 who was like, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm gonna quit." I'm like, "Nah, you're good. You'll get you across." Because that was my reaction to like, I'm not gonna beat any goal that I had. So we're just gonna have fun at this.
Yeah, yeah. That's the coach in you though, right? You're even coaching strangers out on the course.
Well, yeah, I'm like, you can kind of see like, people are like, yeah, you're struggling, but you can do it. I'm like, versus like every once in a while you see someone like you need to sit down and wait for someone to pick you up.
Right, right. Yeah,
Especially of course like Texas. That's like heat wise, it's really unforgiving.
yeah. Yeah, and I do think, like you said, I mean, that personality trait, coach or not coach, in triathletes is a real thing. Like, people do collect and spread their positivity, but I also think, like, most of us also know when to keep it to yourself when it's not positive, right? Like,
Yeah.
when I was in my back spasms, I was not having conversations with people, but then you actually had, so I'm on team TTL this year, and so I was wearing the TTL kit,
Hmm.
and a kid came by me. It was after I'd passed the 25-mile sign, so I was in the 30-minute mile that I was barely, if you could call that walking, I don't know. And he came up next to me. He's like, "Oh, fellow TTLer, what lap are you on?" I said, "Thankfully, this is the last one. I don't think I could keep going if I had more." He says, "Oh, I think I'm gonna call it quits. I've got one more." And I was like, and I looked at my watch and I looked at him and I said, "Even if you walk this whole last lap, you'll finish." And he's like, "Okay, whatever." And when he walked away, I assumed he didn't listen to me and was like, "Whatever." And I hadn't been encouraging to anybody in a long several
Hmm.
miles at that point. So I was whatever. I kind of
It's
forgot
hard.
about it, frankly. And then the next morning on the WhatsApp for the team, he said, "Hey, there was a female TTLer out there that told me if I walked the last lap, I'd finish, and I did." And I was
That's
like that.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and that's triathlon. That happens in your sprints all the way up to your Ironman races. That's triathlon. That's why we do what we do.
And that is one of the things I love about this sport. And right now, I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's going on in the marathon world, but, marathon is having a little bit of an implosion at the moment.
Yeah.
I think the attitudes there are starting to self implode or something,
Yeah.
starting with that Nike ad at Boston. And it's been
Right.
interesting to watch that happen because there's definitely in the run community, like the same dynamic definitely exists within, different pockets of it, right? That
Yes. Yes,
a
it
very
can
social,
exist.
right? There's people who are in it for the social aspect who maybe they have goals, but they're there because they want to be there. But I think for a lot of people, that has a way as you get faster, it has a way of becoming more elitist. And in a sport like that, it's really easy to tell, hey, I get to start in the front. I'm faster than those who start in the back, right?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be interesting to see what happens there over like the next 6-12 months, and if anything changes, because like marketing's gonna change, maybe. I did
Oh,
right. I hope. Although I did love how quickly what was it? Was it Adidas maybe that the day after the Nike ad showed up, they came out with their own anti Nike ad.
yeah. Well, there's been several sets. I don't know which was first, but
Yeah,
yeah, there's been several.
there was one that was like on a billboard across the street, and like that's what we need to see more of is like people calling
Yeah.
that kind of crap out.
Yeah.
And social media has not been kind.
No, no, you're right. But I feel like, so I mean, I didn't start a runner. Like, every triathlete says I was a swimmer first, I was a runner first, I was a cyclist first. I wasn't. I was a triathlete first. I became a triathlete as my first sport. And so when I would do, because I lived in Michigan for a while, I would do running events in the winter because, of course, you're not swimming and biking so much in the winter in Michigan. And I would tell people, like, even a 5K, but certainly a marathon, a run event only to me, I dreaded it more and I it felt like it was way harder. Now, granted, running's not my strength, so that's part of it. But I always felt
Right.
like it was partly the community too, where I never been to a triathlon that if I didn't know somebody walking in, I still feel comfortable. I feel like I'm gonna make 100 new friends, even if I didn't know a single person when I get to a triathlon. In a run race, if you go by yourself, you leave by yourself. I don't feel like people collect each other like we
Yeah.
do in triathlon.
Yeah, I don't think the collecting thing happens as much.
Yeah.
Maybe it happens in the middle or in the back, but I don't know that happens in the back. Just from spectating, I'm fortunate enough to have been seated in a few races, and it's actually more fun to start a couple corrals back.
Yeah.
in those races that have those seated, like, okay, I do a lot of Run Disney. It's not a big secret. Like, I love Run Disney. It's hysterical. It's great. It's so like, it's like anti-running,
Right.
but even like the people with proof of time, right? It's still like it's a serious sport, but it's more upbeat. It's
Yeah.
competitive, but it's less competitive. There's no money on the line.
It's probably closer to triathlon.
I think in a lot of ways it is,
Yeah.
especially as you get like in the middle of the pack. I've witnessed a lot of people being very supportive of others, but yeah, I show up at a lot of races, and if I'm like in like that seated area, like nobody talks to each other,
So
right?
weird.
I mean, it's more like everybody's in their own head, right? Because like at that point, like that group is very competitive, but you go back like a corral or two, and we're all just standing there cold and
In your
nervous.
cute outfits, though.
And well, at Run Disney, yes.
Yeah.
But even at not Run Disney, I'm like, I've made a
Okay.
lot of friends in corrals, my corral buddies. Actually, though, Run Disney has been the most enduring ones. I have a group of friends, they've been on my podcast a few times, that are like, we've met over the years, and, at some point you're like, hey, we've been at like the last 82 runs together. I did have one lady introduce herself to me that way. She's like, I see you at every single one of these. I want to know you.
And you're
I was
easy to
just,
pick out too, right? Like,
well, I usually have pink hair,
I was
although I
gonna say,
don't,
is it not pink right? It's with the lights on behind you, it still
it's
looks a
kind
little
of
pink.
like fadey hair.
Yeah, okay, okay.
It's got
Yeah,
like
with
the
the pink
fade.
lights, it's reflecting still pink.
I mean, pink has become a bit of my brand, I
Of
guess.
course.
I don't know how that happened, but it did. No, no, I'm going to try to get it put back in before Jacksonville, but I don't know that there's going to be time to do that. The problem with it is like chlorine just strips it right out. So I
I
end up like,
can't even imagine. Yeah,
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 like 3 swims and it's blonde again.
yeah.
So,
Swimming's why I don't get new tattoos. Same thing.
I have exactly one tattoo. It's
Mm,
a dot, surprise to no one. And specifically, I always said I was not going to get one. But then the first time I qualified for Worlds,
mm.
I got it. And I got the design. It was Nice. I got the Nice design in it, which is really pretty. And I put a ponytail on it. And
Yeah,
I get a lot of comments of, not on the M dot or the design, but the ponytail. I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, I mean, why not?
yeah,
And same thing, I need to have the color like touched up. And I'm like, when can I take a month off of swimming?
right. Never.
Like never, like never. And you can't just say like, oh, well, don't get in the chlorine, because you can't go outside swimming either.
Yeah. No, I think it's worse, isn't it, for tattoos to get microbes and stuff into
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. I was surprised that chlorine's bad for it. I was always like, oh, well, chlorine is sanitizing. And they're like, well, yeah, but it doesn't really kill everything. Okay, well, isn't that the point of it?
We
That's
don't
not
want to think about that as we're breathing and taking in some of the water.
right, right, right. Well, last year when we started at Texas, the swim, we were like, where I was positioned was with the foundation athletes. So like, up there in the front left corner, right by where the announcer is in
Yeah, yeah.
transition. And the race director was there in the morning. It was like right before they announced that it was not wetsuit legal, despite it having been well below the threshold all week.
Crazy.
And yeah, like the temperatures went from like 68 degrees on Saturday to like 82 degrees on Sunday.
That's
What happened?
insane. Yeah.
And he leans over to us and he says, whatever you do, don't swallow the water. Oh, okay. Thank you
So
for
he's
the
not a swimmer.
right. Well, that was the next thought was, how do you swim and not get any water in your mouth, or like,
You
I mean, how
can't.
do you not swallow any? Like, that's not
Right.
practical. Yeah, apparently he's like, it's kind of like swimming in the Seine, but not quite as bad. I'm like, good to know. So curious
So
minds
now
want to
none of
know.
your listeners are ever going to do Texas.
It's a huge race. Nobody listens to me.
Well,
I mean, that's not true. I actually I have a decent and growing audience. So curious minds want to know,
yes.
in the bike crash,
Yeah.
you were damaged, but was the bike?
So I honestly forgot to look at the bike on race day. How weird is that? You'd think you'd look over the bike before you got back on it. Didn't even think to. So the first person that I told the story to after that, of course, was their first question.
Right,
And
right.
I couldn't answer. I was like, gosh, I mean, it must be fine. It's working. I don't know. And so I have a black bike, and I was a little worried that now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I got to get back to my bike as quick as I can because I got to see if it's okay. And so since it was dark at night, even when we went to go pick it up, I did look it over there, but it's dark outside. So I
Mhm.
didn't see anything wrong with it. So I'm like, okay, it's functioning and visibly there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it. Yay. And then when I got it in real light, there are two tiny little cosmetic things, and I'm a bike mechanic, so I can fix them and done. The kid
Wow,
whose
that's
bike I ran
amazing.
over, I know. The kid whose bike I ran over, though, he did finish the race. He
Well,
still
that's
finished the
good.
race in 12 hours or something, super fast, after waiting on the side of the road for an hour.
So you had a
So
good run.
he's a good runner, and he clearly has some potential for this in the
Yeah.
future. But his carbon, 2 spots on his bike, the carbon was soft. So when he took it in, so I guess him looking at it, you can't really tell, but you know how to check the carbon if it's been cracked. And so he did have damage to his bike, but I have no damage, and away we go. This is not my race bike.
I was gonna say that looks more like a road bike.
Yep. Yep, that's my road bike. The race bike would go here, but I
Mhm.
did 2 aqua bikes this weekend, so it's down in my garage waiting for some love and attention.
I understand that. I spent all day yesterday rebuilding my husband's bike. I
Yeah.
stripped it down to the bare I don't know if you saw on my social media. I stripped
I
it down
didn't see it, no.
so we're in the process of opening a bike shop.
Right.
So we stripped his bike down to the bare frame, and it was Shimano 105. It's now SRAM Force.
I did see that. You're right, I did see that on your yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, about 4
That's a
hours,
big
so
move.
it
Yeah.
wasn't too bad. Well, you know what it was, and this is why I love this community, is someone had bought a speed concept, and they were selling it was local to me. They were selling a speed concept base bars and a full, SRAM Force unused group set that it came with. So they bought a speed concept, was that SL5, SL whatever, SL7, and they only wanted the frame. So they built their own bike off of that. There wasn't even any marks on the derailleur. Like
My
nothing.
gosh.
No grease, no nothing. And
Lovely.
this thing sat in my house for like a year because I originally bought it to put on the bike I have on the trainer, except that that's the older speed concept and that front end you can't do anything with.
Yeah.
Like it's terrible. So when we got his bike, I'm like, I got his bike for a song. And I'm like, yeah, don't worry about what group sets on it because he wanted electronic, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, don't worry, we got this in the house.
Yeah.
So I bought, earlier this year on some sale at like Jensen or something, bought the levers, and the lever kit with the calipers. And I'm like, we got a few hours, let's just tear it apart. Had to clean up the threads on the bottom bracket, but other than that, like,
It's
you know
awesome.
how you know how it is. The hardest part of rebuilding a bike is bleeding the hydraulics.
Gosh, and not making such a mess with that, yeah. Well, I
Well,
also feel
I
like
did get a mouthful of dot fluid, so that was awesome. It's like I pulled it out of the frame because I went from the bottom to the top, pulled it out of the frame, and it like a spring kind of just like
yeah.
flipped dot fluid across the room, and it was like on my face, in my mouth. I'm like, that's fantastic. And I see now I can taste it. Now I'm talking about it.
And I'm like, I can't even imagine what it would taste like. It's not something I've ever had in my mouth.
It's unpleasant.
I bet.
It
I
tastes kind of like
imagine.
fuel smells.
Well, yeah, and the texture, the slipperiness of it's gotta be like a strange I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna stop thinking about it.
I will say this to our listeners: do not recommend. 0 stars given.
Should not be part of your fueling plan.
Should not be part of your fueling plan. No, 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 and immediately go wash that stuff out. It is not good for you. So Texas, you had a bike crash, finished the race, which is amazing. Um, honestly, like I had a bike crash in one race. It was a sprint, and it was like, I felt like in a sprint, it was a lot of effort to get up with blood flowing down the side of my body and finish the race. Mile 60, you've still got 60 miles left
A
in your
long time.
bike. Yeah, yeah. You're only like halfway through, not even halfway through the race.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of mental fortitude. So, like going forward, what's your plan? Are you going to do another full? Is there a redemption race coming?
There is a redemption race coming, and for a totally different reason, right? I was always planning to do a full next year, but it was
Yeah.
gonna find one I can qualify for. But the best part of this experience was doing this with my athlete as his first one, and I have another athlete that's talking about his first one in 2027. So, one of my first reach outs when I finally got through the processing of Texas was to reach out to him and say, so if you're doing your first in 2027, I want to do it with you. Which one are we doing? And so it looks like we may be doing Florida next year
Okay.
because he lives in Florida and he wants to keep it sort of local. So yeah, it sounds like I might be doing Florida with one of my athletes next year.
So I'll let you know how it goes. I'm inadvertently doing all the Florida races this year.
Wow.
Haines City,
Yeah.
I've done a bunch of times,
Okay.
mostly because we're annual pass holders at Disney and it's right by Disney, so it's a good excuse to go to Disney. Let's just be honest. It's 20 minutes
Call
from
it for what
Disney.
it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The first time I did it, we literally went from the start line, said, "No, I'm not going to Tapao." And then went over to Epcot and had dinner at um the English tavern place there. It's a good fish fry after a race. It
Protein.
poured that day, but we still got Ironman medal photos the in front of Spaceship Earth, which
Nice.
like highly recommend taking your Ironman medals to Disney because they don't know Ironman, but they know Run Disney. So just ask them to bring up the Run Disney magic, whatever they call them, the magic photo things because they know that stuff. Then my substitute for and I'm doing Jacksonville in a couple weeks,
Yeah. Yep.
and I was planning to do Ironman Texas. Decided not to do that. My hamstring wasn't where I wanted it to be quite yet. So, yeah, Ironman Florida is the substitute.
Got it. Got it.
I was like, oh Lord. And this year, aren't they giving like some extra medal for doing like 2 races in any region?
Believe so. Yeah. So
Yeah, because I saw something about Happy Valley, Lake Placid.
in Boise, I think.
Yeah, yeah. There's like 3 or 4 across the US that you could get if you did. I think it was like 2
Yeah.
races in a region.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
I'm like, hey, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. We let's be honest. We do it for the swag.
You can't see the wall over here. Yeah,
There's mine.
I see. So it's I do a lot of the have a lot of folks on here for running as well, and some
Yeah.
of their walls are just really impressive because, I mean, let's face it, you could go and do like 5 runs in a weekend.
Right. Right.
I don't know
Yeah.
that you could do 5 triathlons in a weekend, but you could do 5 runs. Couple 5Ks here or there, a random neighborhood half marathon somewhere else.
And I feel like those events like Goofy, like the Disney ones, like when you do 2, you get a 3rd medal. When you do 3, you get a 5th medal.
Yeah.
Like you end up with that whole array with the Goofy thing, right? Like,
I totally, Disney's great for that. We're trying to figure out like how many Disney finish lines I have at this point, and we couldn't count the medals because there's so many challenge medals in there.
yes.
And we're
Yeah.
like, okay, well, there's 4 race weekends a year, sometimes 5. Each race has at least 3 distances, sometimes 4. And you see how the logic
Yeah.
programs.
Yeah.
But no, like Philadelphia here, our marathon weekend every year is the weekend. So November here is crazy. Marathon weekend is the weekend before Thanksgiving. And
Okay.
then the weekend before that, typically sometimes is 2 weekends, depending on like where Thanksgiving lays, is the Rocky Run. And so Rocky Run is a split half marathon. So it's a 5K and a 10 miler. So you
Okay.
walk away from that with 3 medals.
Right. Of course.
Marathon, yeah. Philly Marathon weekend, and they're all like very like Rocky inspired. So they typically look like they could have been on a boxing belt or something. And then the marathon weekend is a half marathon Saturday morning, followed by an 8K. And I'm like, if you're going to show up for the half marathon, you might as well stay till 11 to do the 8K, even if you walk it.
You clearly have a different relationship with running than I do.
Yeah. And then Sunday is the marathon. But if you do all three, you get the Patriot Challenge. That medal is ginormous, and it's Philadelphia. The thing about most medals in Philadelphia is they in some way incorporate the Liberty Bell.
I figured.
Philadelphia
Yeah.
Philadelphia weekend, run weekend, marathon weekend, they are all actual bells. You can hear after the race all the runners walking down the road with their little clang, 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 clangs.
Do it for the swag every
Do
time.
it, do it for the swag every time. So Texas, did they give out finisher shirts? I saw they gave out towels.
Yeah, we got chamois towels at the finish line. And yes, the long sleeve hooded, like thinner kind of tech material shirts.
Yeah,
Same
yeah.
ones that we got from like Placid last year.
Hat,
I love those shirts. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what they're doing at all. So you'll get one in Jacksonville, I'm sure.
but you still got the hat.
No, no hat.
See, I
Yeah, they
collect those hats. I have
replaced the
like a
hat with
wall
the
of I
chamois.
have like a
I
wall of
know.
finisher hats.
Yeah. So you won't get a finisher hat. And it's a true, I mean, it's a towel size,
Yeah.
maybe not quite beach towel, but bathroom towel size, but it's chamois material.
Oh,
So it is like,
so it's like
it's
the
good for
name.
like a,
So it's
yeah, I
like the
don't,
name towels.
yes, yes. It's like the old name towels that we used to get. Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I hang all the in my basement where the pain cave is. I hang the name towels from all the races. Hey, we all have our own thing, right? It's like it keeps you inspired. At least for me, it's like it's the little brag wall. It's like reminder of like you can do this, even
Right.
when those 40 cadence or 50% FTP grinds just want to make your soul exit your body.
Yeah. Yeah. They happen to
They do
everybody.
happen. They do. All right. So we'll see you again at Ironman Florida next year. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. 2027. Yep. And I race a lot.
And the
I've
Aquabike
got
World.
In the aquabike world, I'm racing, I don't know, 5 or 6 more times this summer, and I always do North Carolina 70.3. It's a 20-mile drive from my house, so as long as I'm in
Okay.
town, I'm I say always. I might not if I'm doing Florida. I'll have to see how it works in with my race rehearsals and whatnot, but
It might be good prep for Florida.
it might actually be perfect timing. It'll either be perfect timing or horrible timing, so if it's perfect timing, yay.
But either way, you're going to have fun with it.
Yeah, yeah, either way, I'll be there
Yeah. I have an
to
athlete
celebrate.
who's has family in Wilmington. So they're looking at the North Carolina 70.3 is their first 70.3.
It is an excellent first timers race, honestly. It's a 2 transition, which sounds to people that aren't used to true transition sounds like a lot, but if you don't know any different, the race director,
Yeah.
Sammy, she races, and so she's got it organized really well, and it's very easy. Have you done North Carolina?
I have not. It's on the list. I lived in Charlotte for a while and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be nice to go back down and do it. No, I've done the only 70.3 that I've done that has a split transition. Well, I guess Marbella did, but the Happy Valley,
Okay.
it's a point to point race. So the swim is like a big horseshoe. You go into swim start and T1 are in the same place. But then you bike from T1 basically a straight line over Mount Nittany to Penn State. And
Okay.
Then you exchange your bike for your shoes and do a couple laps around the campus and finish in the stadium, which is it's kind of a neat finish, but that run has so many turns on because it's all through campus. So it's like
Yeah.
weaving through all the
Right.
areas. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
for a Penn Stater, it's neat. But after the first loop, you're kind of like, okay, could we just like have some like straight out and backs maybe?
Straighten this out a little bit.
I'm like, I really dislike out and backs, but there comes a point where you're like, there's a lot of turns. Could we just like have some straight sections for a while?
Just for a minute, please. Yeah, so I'm sure that you handle it very similarly to how they did that, where you've got bags for T2 and you gotta drop your bike off, obviously for all Ironmans, but the day before that, yeah,
Yeah,
they do a really good job.
I feel like that really good race briefing for that is the difference between people knowing exactly what's going on and people who've never done a split transition being just super confused.
Yeah, yeah, and so clearly whatever Sammy has done works because it being that it is a lot of first timers that go there, it goes off without a hitch every time. So, yeah, I recommend it as a first to anybody.
All right. All right. Any last parting words of advice for our listeners and athletes? I believe there's a very large intersection of listeners and athletes on this podcast.
I would assume that most listeners are also athletes, or at least considering being athletes, if that's part of it, right? Yeah, I mean, go
It would
ahead.
be nice to have actual metrics on that. So we're just going to go on the assumption.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, probably the biggest thing that I took out of Texas was give yourself the space to process, and what that might look like during the race is being prepared for those dark moments. But this, for me, was after all these races, was the first time I really gave myself the space to process after. And that after processing has really been very cathartic and good for me as a seasoned athlete. And I wish that it's something that I maybe had looked into doing more thoroughly as a new athlete. So yeah, no matter where you are in the process, space to process is part of it.
Yeah, I think as a new athlete, there's a lot of rah-rah that goes on. Like you got it done, and not enough time spent on the what went well, what didn't go well. And it's like if you treat it like it's a job, do the retrospective. It's worth it.
Yeah, yeah. That's where the learning happens.
Right. All right. Well, thank you, Erin, for coming on. It's been fantastic. And I look forward to seeing you at future races, hopefully in person.
Yeah.
For our listeners, I hope this was useful and insightful in some way. Not every race goes the way we plan, but having the toolkit to be able to weather through those unexpected events, maybe a crash, or it could be something else. It could be a nutrition crash. It could be just a bad day. But having the toolkit to weather through that is super important, especially if you're doing these really long distances in the half and full iron distances. And that's, as they say, a wrap for today's episode of the Be Fierce and Try podcast. I'm Jill Bartholomew. I hope that what you heard today was interesting, inspiring, and that this episode helped you to think smarter, train differently, and show up with more intention. Make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss what's next. And if you are looking for support on your journey to your next start or finish line, I would love to work with you. Here at Be Fierce Multisport, we work with athletes of all abilities, and you can learn more about coaching, training plans, bike fittings, and everything else that we are building at Be Fierce Multisport at the site, BeFierceMultisport.com. Until next time, train with purpose, execute with intention. And as always, be fierce and be you.